Hey guys, Barrett here. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be covering one of the most common questions I get on my website, YouTube channel, email, whatever, you name it. And that is, what are some of the best paddles that I can buy for under $90? Let's do this. Okay, so this is such a great question, and the reason is that it brings up this idea of where can I get the most bang for my buck when it comes to price ranges in pickleball? Now, obviously, if you go for like the $140, $150, $160 paddles, you're gonna get the highest quality stuff. There's no question about it. But when does it start to drop off? In my view, some of the best paddles that you can buy in terms of like purchasing power, so to speak, is anywhere between $60 to $90. That's kind of like the sweet spot. And these aren't necessarily beginner paddles, but these are really great for people who, you know, you've probably played another racket sport before, or you're at least familiar, or you played baseball when you were a kid or something like that. And you're not sure if you're going to be playing too often, but you think that you're probably going to, like, because it looks so insanely fun, and it is, trust me. Either that or you're shopping for someone and you don't want to spend too much money. I've picked out 4 paddles to look at here. These are all really great options, and I'm going to explain them one by one to see if this is going to be a good fit for you. Okay, so real quick, just to let you know, to be totally open and honest with you, that's my goal here on this channel. The links to the paddles are listed down below. These are affiliate links to Amazon, so if you click the link and you buy the paddle, I get a little commission in return. Again, just to be totally open and honest with you, just want to let you know. All right, having said that, let's take a look at the paddles. Okay, the first paddle is actually the Selkirk Prime Epic. Now, you don't see this paddle very often. Some manufacturers, like Selkirk for example, they specifically make starter paddles, and this is one of their starter paddles. Typically they make paddles that are in the $150 range, or like their Amped Epic, which is $130. But the Selkirk Prime Epic comes in around $80. Now, you don't get the thick core like you do with some of the Amp series. This one is actually quite thin, but you do get a pretty solid paddle. It's a great starter paddle as well. However, it is extremely lightweight, and it's also very handle heavy. So if you're not familiar with pickleball, when I say handle heavy, that means all of the weight is here in the handle and not up here at the top, so that when you swing the paddle, you can hardly feel it. This feels like a feather. It's so lightweight. And so oftentimes when it comes to power, a lot of the power that you get with pickleball, it comes from your mechanics and from your swing and so on, but it can also come from where is the center of gravity in the paddle. And this one, it's much lower down. So if you lack a lot of upper body strength, if you've got some arm or wrist limitations or issues, this can be a really great paddle for you because it's not going to put a lot of strain on you. Okay, now to flip that on its head, let's talk about the Gamma Mirage. Now this is another really cool paddle, but it's the exact opposite of the Selkirk Prime Epic. This is a pretty hefty paddle. By hefty, I mean like it's around 8.2, 8.3 ounces, whereas the Selkirk Prime is going to be more around like that 7.2 area. So almost a full ounce heavier. Now the cool thing about the Gamma Mirage is that it's pretty top heavy. So a lot of the weight is sort of focused more up here. You're gonna get a lot more power, but you're not exactly gonna lose a lot of control and finesse along with it. So if you come from tennis or from racquetball or something like that, this is gonna feel a little bit similar because tennis players are used to having all that weight up here. So it kind of replicates that. It does have a slightly shorter handle than usual. I think this is around 4.5 or 4.25 inches long. That's not too short, but a lot of the paddles these days are typically around 5 inches long. So if you prefer a longer handle, then this may not be a good paddle for you. But in terms of paddles that are sub $90, and this one is around, I think it's around 85 or 90, somewhere around there. When it comes to heavier paddles, this is a really great one to look at. Now, I teach a lot of previous tennis players in my area. These are people who have been playing tennis for 25 or 30 years, and one of the hardest things for them to do is to actually pick a paddle, because they're used to the whole, racket choosing process, but it can be very difficult for them to sort of decide on a paddle, and I will go through 10, 12, 13 paddles before they finally find one that they like. And oftentimes they land on the good old PaddleTech Element. I mean, almost every single time. It's really crazy. But I think the reason is because the PaddleTech Element is so well balanced in terms of weight. It feels great when you're swinging it. It's not too top heavy. It's not too handle heavy. It's sort of a slightly lightweight to midweight paddle. But also the surface texture is quite rough, you know, and I don't know if you can probably hear that. It's quite rough, and the more rough the surface is, the more spin you get. And you know how tennis players are with their spin. They love their spin. So PaddleTech Element is a great choice for previous tennis players. Again, I know a ton of tennis players who have, when they switched to pickleball, this was the first paddle that they stuck with for a long time. Now, the number one most common question I get is, I'm a beginner, what kind of paddle should I use? And out of all the paddles out there, and especially when it comes to the sub 91s, there's one paddle that I recommend if you are an absolute beginner, and that is the PaddleTech Phoenix LTE. Quick reminder real quick about the handle. This is actually an overgrip. This is not what the handle looks like when you get it. But this is pretty lightweight paddle, but the cool thing about it is that it's just a pickleball paddle. It's just a paddle. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just a polymer core with a composite face and a very simple handle. It's about as standard as you can get. And that's really cool, and I really like that. And the reason why I like that so much and why I recommend this for beginners is because it gives them a consistent baseline to start off on, right? So that when they're looking at other paddles down the road, they're not coming from a paddle that's super unique or super heavy or has rounded edges or anything like that. So that they have nothing to compare it to, right? And it makes their paddle choosing experience a little bit easier later on, but also a little bit more special. But this is a great starter paddle, especially if, again, it's lightweight, so if you have any kind of lack of upper body strength or anything like that, this is going to be real easy on your body. So remember that I do have a paddle choosing guide up here, click somewhere up here. I can't remember which side to point to, but I do have a guide on how to choose a paddle, so feel free to check that out for some more information on how to actually pick a paddle. But these are my top 4 picks when it comes to paddles that are sub $90. Keep in mind that when it comes to picking a paddle or finding a paddle, you don't just have to listen to me. It's really important to listen to your instincts. Listen to the way that your body responds to these paddles when you're using them. It's important to trust how you feel about it. Oftentimes, we've talked about this on my podcast, oftentimes when it comes to paddle preferences, it's really in the eye of the beholder, guys. I mean, you can like whatever you want. I know people who have been using the same paddle for like 20 years. And it was like 60 or 70 bucks back then. That's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. So I hope this video has helped you guys sort of kind of narrow down some of the sub $90 paddles. I hope it was helpful. Of course, feel free to leave a comment. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't. I would love to hear about what you think. Guys, and as usual, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.